The silence that fell over the boardroom was absolute. Every breath felt like a transgression. Every glance a confession. Camilla Thornton stood at the head of the conference table, no longer the invisible woman in the corner, no longer the presumed assistant, the target of mockery, the object of derision. She stood now as what she had always been, the owner, the force, the reckoning. She laid the folder flat against the table's gleaming surface and opened it, not with haste, but with surgical precision. The pages inside bore the weight of legal ownership, the authority of corporate sovereignty, and the cold finality of reality. Her voice cut through the silence like a blade wrapped in velvet. As of this quarter, Thornton Capital Real Estate Group holds the controlling lease rights for this tower, Lexmark Tower, as well as the leases for your 12 regional offices, your new satellite expansion site in Denver, and every one of your executive retreats from Nantucket to Napa. The executives stared, their once confident eyes now blinking in disbelief. Amanda Klein clutched her phone like a lifeline. Thomas Griffin leaned forward, his forehead beaded with sweat despite the icy air conditioning. Robert Steele, still at the far end of the table, looked as if the floor had shifted beneath him. "You're bluffing," someone whispered. Camilla smiled. Not cruelly, not smugly, simply with truth. She slid another document across the table, detailing a 90-day eviction clause buried within the lease renegotiation terms. Signed, sealed, stamped. If Thornton Capital chooses not to renew your agreements, you will be given 3 months to vacate every one of your corporate holdings. Failure to do so results in litigation, penalties, and immediate asset lockouts. I do not make threats, gentlemen. I execute contracts. The room erupted into a sudden flurry of movement. Phones were snatched up, legal teams hastily texted, laptops opened with shaking fingers. But no one spoke directly to her. Not yet. They were still too stunned, too unwilling to admit that they had spent the entire morning mocking the very person who owned the ceiling over their heads. I tried, she continued, her voice measured, almost mournful, to let this company reveal the best of itself. But it chose arrogance over grace, dismissiveness over dignity. And now, you will answer to the shareholders, to the public, and to the board that I have already summoned. As if on cue, the glass doors behind her parted, and several figures entered, board members, legal counsel, and the chairman himself, Harold Pierce. His face was grim. Behind him, security personnel stood just outside, their presence unspoken but very clear. "Robert Steele," Harold said without waiting for introductions, "you are hereby suspended from your duties, effective immediately, pending full investigation into your conduct, workplace discrimination, and executive negligence." Robert stood, stunned. "You can't do this." This is all a miscommunication." "You're right," Camilla said, turning to face him fully. "It was a miscommunication. You mistook my silence for absence, my skin for servitude, my presence for charity. You thought I was no one. But I am the person who will decide if your company continues to exist past next quarter." Amanda Klein slumped into her seat. Thomas Griffin buried his face in his hands. Phones buzzed. One executive stood abruptly and left the room. Another wept softly into a silk handkerchief. The unraveling had begun. And Camilla? She stepped back, calm as ever. She didn't gloat. She didn't raise her voice. She simply let them watch as their own decisions came back like tidal waves, crashing down. "I am not here for revenge," she said quietly. "I'm here for justice and accountability." And with that, she turned and walked out of the boardroom she now owned, leaving behind only the sound of collapse. The aftermath was a storm no one had prepared for. By that evening, headlines had erupted across every major outlet. CEO of Thornton Capital humiliated, then exposes entire corporate board in power move seen around the nation. News anchors speculated. Analysts dissected the footage leaked from inside the boardroom. Activists praised the quiet resilience, the composed fury. And across social media, clips of Camilla's calm takedown spread like wildfire, captioned with words like power, grace, and justice served cold. Within 48 hours, shareholders initiated a special emergency vote. The board was restructured. Amanda Klein resigned, issuing a carefully worded statement about reflecting on her role in corporate culture. It fooled no one. Internally, over 20 executives faced investigation. Several quietly stepped down. A few tried to pivot the narrative, too late. And yet, the collapse of the firm was not Camilla's goal. She never wanted scorched earth. She wanted acknowledgement, change, and a reckoning long overdue. The irony? Some of the very same executives who had once tossed coffee orders at her like scraps now reached out to request meetings. Humbly, this time. One even sent a box of apology letters handwritten by junior staff, each one addressed to Ms. Thornton, detailing their regret for not seeing what was always there. She read every one. She responded to none. Weeks passed. The dust settled. Lexmark Tower was sold off, no longer a symbol of corporate might, but of fragility under false leadership. Thornton Capital expanded its real estate footprint in 5 new states, signing partnerships with businesses that prioritized inclusion, innovation, and accountability. Camilla personally oversaw each new deal, not out of distrust, but because legacy, she now knew, required her personal fingerprint. Then came the interview requests. Major networks begged for exclusive sit-downs. Book deals landed on her desk. Universities offered honorary degrees. She declined them all. She wasn't interested in becoming a symbol. She was interested in becoming a door, one she could hold open for those like her who had been turned away without a second glance. And yet, one day, while visiting a Thornton Capital-funded youth incubator program on the south side of Chicago, Camilla stood in a sunlit hallway and saw someone she hadn't expected. Robert Steele. He was older now, or perhaps simply looked it. Gone were the tailored suits and commanding posture. In their place, a man holding a clipboard, helping teens review mock business plans. When their eyes met, he nodded once. A gesture not of entitlement, but of respect. Camilla didn't smile, but she didn't look away either. Later, a girl no older than 17 approached her in that same hallway, eyes wide with wonder. "Miss Thornton," the girl said shyly, "my mentor told me what you did. They said you didn't yell or fight. You just let them destroy themselves." Camilla looked at her, this younger version of who she once was, and offered the gentlest smile. "Sometimes silence is a sword," she replied. "But knowing when to use your voice is what wins the war." The girl nodded slowly, as if absorbing something sacred. Outside, Chicago's cold wind howled. But inside, the warmth of justice, true, earned, permanent, lingered. Because Camilla Thornton had not simply taken a seat at the table. She had flipped the whole damn table. And in the ashes of arrogance, she built something far more enduring. Legacy, built not on fear or dominance, but on dignity, strategy, and unshakable resolve. The end.